drama inside the Bears locker room. Nick, help us out. What I first of all, I have to set the table because this video that's come in, we didn't even have it for the first 30 minutes of our show. So I'm assuming you guys were not aware of the Tyreek Stevenson situation before you went in the locker room.
No. I just literally saw it as you guys were talking about it, and it looks terrible. Terrible. Yes. So, yeah, just saw it.
Well, I think that's important context as we go on to ask the rest of your questions, because obviously if you guys had known that and seen that, I'm sure. Did he talk? Do you know? And if not, who in the defensive backs room talked, and what did they have to say about the Hail Mary?
Yeah, so Tyreek Stevenson didn't talk for the majority of his time at his locker. He was still getting ready, and he didn't talk today. But for the guys that did talk in the defensive backfield, we heard from Elijah Hicks, Josh Blackwell, and Kevin Byard. So there's a lot of guys that were in on the Hail Mary play, spoke about it, what their perspective was. And I can just tell you just from the top here, I mean, a lot of guys there's like a certain like protocol. Like you have a jumper, you're going to try to get in a triangle formation, try to box people out like a basketball player. That's how Josh Blackwell was describing. You box everyone out. We got a jumper in the back, which is Kevin Byard. The jumper bats the ball down. That's the process. But as the play kind of prolongs, Jaden Daniels is running around. You'll have the 3-man rush. Things kind of get scrummed up in that middle there, and you kind of lose sight of, where people are, where just people are at in the end zone. And, Tyreek Stevenson ends up batting the ball, and you have one of the Commanders' offensive players in the back there to easily catch the Hail Mary game-winning touchdown.
Did Byard say that he should have been in the back?
No. So, I'll tell you exactly what Byard said, just going back to his words. Brad Biggs asked him, is someone assigned to be the savior on the play? And this is how he answers. Someone's supposed to have a jumper. You're supposed to box out. Every team in the league does this. They build a triangle, have a jumper, which is him. And again, because of the big scrum, he hadn't seen the play yet on replay. He couldn't exactly, describe because he hadn't seen it at that point. But, he was just identifying what his role was on the play and how the process works for those types of situations.
So he's saying that he was the jumper. And so the way I heard that, am I
That's correct.
Hearing that right? He's saying is
yes.
Okay.
So Kevin Byard's the jumper on that play.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
And guys,
oh no, go ahead, Nick.
Guys, real quickly, Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham, they didn't see that play. They thought the game was over. They left the press box thinking that the game was over, which, thinking right after
Poles jinxed it.
Right after the touchdown that they score, thinking they were going to win the game, they leave. And you know what? There were some fans also leaving. I get it. But like I heard what you were saying, Braggs, like we've kind of been through this before. It's the Bears. You never know. And I jokingly was right next to Herb Hauer. I'm like, there's still time on the clock. Like things can happen. And boom, it happened. So Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham, they probably heard a loud roar as they're going down the elevators, knowing that, our team just lost after they just had the victory, had victory in his hands.
Nick, remember when they played at the Atlanta Falcons and Matt Ryan gets down with 10 seconds left. The Bears came back on a miracle, comeback, and then Matt Ryan wins the game with like 8 seconds left on the clock and one throw to put him in field goal range. So yes, we have seen these kind of games before. And at the end of the day, when the Bears had a miracle to get back in it, you had to know that another miracle could have countered that.
So I just want to understand, were they sitting in the same area as you, Nick, and they walked out? Is that what happened?
Yeah, so I was in the first row of that press box, and they were over to my left in the second row. And after Roschon Johnson scores that I'll tell you this, before Roschon Johnson scored the touchdown, they threw that fade pass to, I think it was DJ Moore in the left corner.
Yeah.
Ryan pulls his face. He was like, there's no way he called the pass. And then they eventually called the run on the next play. Like, he looked in shock. I mean, Herb Hauer and I had the same reaction as Poles. We're like, he just called a pass play when you're at the 1. And then they eventually score that touchdown with Roschon, and then they leave. So that was the end. That's all they saw. And then everything else that obviously happened.
It's kind of amazing.
By the way, just to go back to your question, so typically what happens on the road, the front office does sit in the press box. They don't have their own suite, and they usually will hold the elevators for the coaches, and then And although where this press box is, it's on the end. So I don't know if it's the same bank elevators that the coaches use. They might be higher on a different bank, but usually they would hold the elevators then for like the Bears personnel that need to get down in the locker room. So I don't know if you, but it's not necessarily abnormal for them to leave their seats and jet out of there and get down. A lot of times GMs will get down there for like the last 5 minutes of the game or something like that. There's nothing weird about that, but it is unfortunate. And I'm surprised Rags isn't calling it a jinx.
No, it's sad.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
So, Nick, based on what you've heard about Tyreek Stevenson, if you got a chance to see it, how crucial do you think it is for Matt Eberflus to set the precedence to this team, to let it be known that we're not going to tolerate any of this stuff going on? And he had the 15-yard penalty, had that at the end of the game in a critical situation. We don't know the facts, but it seems like he might have been the guy at the back of everything to be able to prevent that the guy from catching it.
I think it's huge because if you're trying to set a culture that actually stands for something, people who don't abide by that culture or don't do their job right need to be disciplined. I mean, Matt Eberflus already disciplined Tyreek Stevenson before, benched him when he wasn't hustling in training camp or something like that, right? He benched him, so he already made an example out of him. This is going to look so bad on tape. I can't imagine Jalen Johnson seeing that on tape. Kevin Byard, a veteran who's been in this league for years, seeing that on tape and knowing what each person's responsibility is on this Hail Mary and knowing that waving to the fans or taunting them, that's not a part of your responsibility. So if you're Matt Eberflus, you got to take a serious look at this. Look, Terrell Smith was playing in this game. On the one drive that he was in, they tried a third down target to, I think, Terry McLaurin. Smitty was in good coverage, or it was an off pass, but still they forced a punt. Like, if that's what needs to happen to send a message, you send that message because that is so unacceptable. And again, like I just saw this as you guys were talking about it, just looked up Tyreek Stevenson on Twitter. It's trending everywhere. Like, it's such a bad look. And it's karma, really. You're taunting, and then that ends up happening at the end.
Nick, did anybody talk to Doug Kramer?
So I got a couple people ended up getting him, but I was on the other side of the locker room, how they have a split up offense one side, defense on the other side. So I was just getting done with an interview, and Doug did speak, but by the time I went over, he was already done. He wasn't allowed to speak to him.
So, Nick, got one more for you. What do you think for you is the most disappointing part of this game? You think it's offensively? You think it's critical situations? For you, what's the most disappointing part of this game?
I just look at the offense, and it wasn't one thing. I think that's what really, like, as I'm watching this game unfold, like, the offensive line's giving up pressure. Caleb was missing passes in the beginning. Play designs just aren't working, and it just didn't seem like anything was clicking for a majority of three quarters, and they were rolling. And I know they were playing lesser talented defenses in the Commanders and Jaguars, but you don't come out with looking like that in a flex game. So it's like there's no one pinpoint thing to fix. Yeah, you have to fix the offensive line. Your quarterback has to hit passes. Yes, your play design need to actually work. So there wasn't one thing where you can say next week going into Arizona, if they just fix this, they're going to be in a good situation. So it's a multitude of things, like it was in the first 3 games of the season. And that's what's really, I think, alarming. And you need to address it quickly. And you're probably going to do it with less bodies on the offensive line as well. So a lot of things are not going right for this Bears offense.
Nick, we have there's to me a few leaders on this team, and I think Jalen Johnson is one of them. He spoke up with some strong quotes. I think TJ Edwards is another guy, but then obviously Cole Kmet, our teammate here at CHGO Bears. Did you get a chance to talk with him? I did see a full quote that Kevin Fishbane put on Twitter, kind of what his message to the team, or at least his mindset after this loss was.
Yeah, it's good to have a leader like Cole in that locker room, because he's seen a lot of losses. He's been with the Bears, unfortunately. But one of the things that I think stood out from just his press conference, he said to obsess over the results is a little immature. He's just talking about the people in the locker room. He said, well, however we want to assess it, we can assess it the way that, however we want. But he thought it was a big step for this offense to, one beat down, but still take the lead. You have that hiccup with Doug Kramer, attempting to run with the football, but still come back and get the ball. But like, it's how you handle that loss. Like, it was a Hail Mary. It's literally a prayer, right? Like, that's what he said. So you shouldn't obsess with the result, even though this is a result-based league. And that's what I think the players in this locker room need to keep in mind, that they are, 4-3 on the season. There's still plenty of ball left. They lost on a Hail Mary. So as long as they can stay grounded and improve, like how Eberflus will say, little by little every week, then they should be okay. But again, it takes a certain kind of mindset to be able to do that, because this was a devastating loss. This stadium, not all that loud, honestly, for being, all the fans in here, the Commanders fans, but when that play happened, it erupted. It was unlike anything I had ever covered. So I get it. Like, you need to have perspective, and that it did end that way, but they're gonna have to soul search, I think, for this next week so they can be on track.
Well, I respect that answer from Cole Kmet, but I severely definitely wonder if he had seen the Tyreek Stevenson aspect of that play yet, because I get not obsessing over the result, but this is obsessing over the process. Is what we're doing on this show. It's really not about the result. It's about the process from start to finish, from not calling a timeout to not being ready on the back end, to being in the wrong position. So good reason to listen to the 85 with Cole Kmet Tuesday, because I wonder if he's going to have a different answer. Even tomorrow, he usually does a press conference on Mondays.
85 ain't going to like that one. Nick, great stuff over there. You did channel your Flus. You had the biggest Nick Flus moment there today. It's one game. We gotta stay positive, and we can do this. Nick, you got to be on the road next week in Arizona. You got to keep your head down. You got to get to Hallis Hall, and you got to believe in yourself, and we got to move forward. And I'm almost about to turn the page myself.
Well, you guys will be joining me in Arizona, so it'll be a good step for all of us to go there and, be on the right track.
We all silly like the mayor.